Hi, I'm Greer Fuller Jr., and I'm a blogger for Afropunk.com. I'm here in the state of California, and I'm here to give you a rundown about my state's Proposition 8. Okay, so in May 2008, the California Supreme Court declared that denying same-sex couples the right to marry is unconstitutional, thus making same-sex marriage legal for all Californians. Opponents of same-sex marriage didn't like this, so they put onto the November 2008 ballot a proposition that would illegalize same-sex marriage. Unfortunately, that proposition passed, and it sparked a big backlash and lots of protests and launching a big Prop 8 movement on both sides of the aisle. I'm here to give you my first-hand experience and my first-hand account about what happened during the November 2008 election season and with Proposition 8 and the aftermath and what we're doing about it right now here in California. During the Prop 8 movement during the November 2008 election, it was crazy. What you had throughout the state of California, all over the place, you had like this crazy political turf war kind of thing where you have different businesses and different homes battling it out silently with their yes on 8 signs, and then you have people with their no on 8 signs, and you're supposed to boycott the people who supported yes on 8, and it was crazy. I lived in, during that time I lived in a neighborhood. It was like an upper scale Hispanic neighborhood, upper scale conservative Hispanic neighborhood. Every other house in my neighborhood had a yes on 8 sign, and I despised it. And I think we were like the only house down on the corner that that had a no on 8 sign in our lawn. But let me give you, let me clarify this for you in case it might be confusing for you. Yes, if you vote yes on Proposition 8, that means you are against same-sex marriage and you want to illegalize it. If you vote no on Proposition 8, then that means that you are against the proposition itself and that you want marriage to be equal for all Californians. So the No on 8 campaign were people who were fighting for equal rights. We held numerous local protests in Riverside County. There were numerous protests in Los Angeles County. I went to this huge protest we had in LA in November, and I think about probably like a week later or so I went to this another large protest that we had in Sacramento. They have protests in San Francisco. They just had large and continuous protests throughout the state of California immediately following the passing of Proposition 8, because people were unhappy. And let me tell you, I saw thousands of people out in the streets. I saw thousands of people in the streets when I protested in Los Angeles. I saw thousands of people in the streets when I protested in Sacramento. And these were people of all different ages, of all different skin colors, different ethnicities, and it came from all different walks of life. And let me tell you something else that was quite amazing about the whole Proposition 8 protest movement is that sometimes our heterosexual allies made up half of the protesters. I remember going to local Prop 8 rallies, and half of the people there protesting were straight. And there would be straight couples. There would be, guys out there protesting with their girlfriends, and they would be just as rigorous and just as militant as we were, holding up our signs and chanting. And they were heterosexual. And when some of the taunters and people passing by in the cars shouted homophobic epithets and things like, they shouted at us fags or you're going to hell or whatever when they passed us in their cars, they took those insults as well, regardless of their heterosexual orientation. So the straight allies that marched with us in November of 2008 were much appreciated. But it just goes to show you how more open-minded our society is growing to be, and how people believe that an injustice to anyone is an injustice worth fighting for, and that Proposition 8 is unconstitutional. And Proposition 8, in this society that we live in today, and in the year 2010, and even in the year 2008, a few years ago, it just doesn't make sense to have a law that tells people that you are a second-class citizen, or to tell people that you are not equal to your neighbor, or you do not have the same rights as your neighbor, and then have justification behind it. That is unfathomable. But the justification behind illegalizing same-sex marriage is that people in power think that it's morally unacceptable. When do people's morals start dictating the law? When do people's morals start deciding what people can and cannot do in their lives? It doesn't make sense. It's obscene and it's absurd, and this is why we're fighting so hard to repeal Proposition 8. So Proposition 8 passed. All of the couples who married, all of the same-sex couples who married before November 5th, 2008, their marriages remain legal. But any same-sex couples that wanted to marry after Prop 8 passed, not happening. But we weren't going to just roll over and take it. We were very upset and we were very furious about it. So there were some sporadic lawsuits that were launched against the state of California to try to overturn Prop 8, but they were stifled. They were pretty much swept under the rug, or they were dismissed, or they were prolonged or delayed or whatever. In March of 2009, the California Supreme Court held hearings to see whether Prop 8 is constitutional and whether it should stay in effect. Unfortunately, the California Supreme Court decided that Proposition 8 will remain in effect, and it's what the voters wanted, and that all the couples who married before November 5th, 2008 remain married. But here we are now in spring of 2010, and we're launching this huge repeal Proposition 8 movement here in California. We're doing grassroots. We're trying to make this a grassroots movement. We're doing it from the streets. We're doing it from the college campuses. We're doing it from online, using the internet, social networking, whatever we can use to get the word out here. We have to collect 1 million signatures to put the repeal Proposition 8 measure on the ballot for the November 2010 California, for the California 2010 ballot. And we have by the fall to do that. So here in California, we have this big repeal Proposition 8 movement, and we're fighting back. We're still fighting back. Here we are, almost 2 years later, and we're still fighting for our rights, and we're not going to give up. As people here in California, we have this sign, repeal Prop 8 in 2010. We posting these signs anywhere that we can, and public businesses. People are marching with them at protest rallies. We're taking them and we posting these signs all over the place and trying to make them as visible as possible to let people know that Proposition 8 is unconstitutional. We are not going to just roll over and take it, and we are fighting back, and we will get our rights. This is the movement that we're leading. This is what's going on here in California. If you want to help with the Repeal Proposition 8 campaign, you can go to repealprop8.com. Thank you. You guys take care. Bye-bye.